if you think about it, how we feel in ourselves is created how we think to ourselves. So the direct link between how it's sequenced to how it's felt. With anxiety, we're just changing the threshold of the speed of it, and then when it gets to below a certain speed, it goes. But the sneaky bit here is it's like betting on black and red on the roulette wheel. I'm also changing the visual element as well. So if I change both, you can't get back into the original pattern. Not possible.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Kallum and Conor with the Connekt Unplugged number 62 with, world-renowned expert in communication and change, Nick Kemp. And he's joining us all the way from the UK. It's late at night, it's 10 p.m. And Nick, welcome. And I'll let Kallum share with the world a little bit more about you.
Nick, welcome to the show. Today on the Connekt Unplugged podcast, we're joined by someone who has shaped the modern landscape of communication in a truly unique way. Nick is an internationally recognized communications expert and the creator of the Provocative Change Works methodology, and a trainer known for blending precision, humor, and deep therapeutic skill to create rapid, lasting transformation. His work has influenced practitioners around the world, and his approach continues to push the boundaries of what's possible in communication, change, and human behavior. In this episode, we dive into Nick's journey, his unconventional approach to helping people shift the way that they think, feel, and show up in the world, and the insights he's gained from decades of hands-on experience. Nick, welcome to the Unplugged podcast.
Welcome.
Hey, after that build-up, no pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk. Where should we start?
At the beginning.
At the beginning, yeah.
Well, 19th of March, 1959, I was born on planet Earth. You know, that was the initial incarnation. I started getting involved in communication and personal change when I was around 20 years old, you know. So my background was in a lot of different systems, meditative type systems, accelerated learning. And then I fell into NLP, would be late 90s. And at that time I was also in business. I was in sales and recruitment, which was merciless, you know.
Recruitment, as in like headhunting recruitment back then? Because I think back then, what the recruitment industry as it is now, it probably was still in its infancy back then.
Yeah, still pretty basic. I mean, this was more sort of like blue collar stuff. So I was sort of like dealing with like hundreds of people across different companies. And it was a great baptism of fire in expectations. The company would say, okay, we need blah, blah, blah. And I'm dealing with people. I'm not dealing with like widget. So people, as unpredictable as they are, I've got to make decisions based upon meeting different expectations. And I did that over about 13 years, had a couple of startups that became multi-million. And it really—
In recruitment? Is this all in recruitment?
Yeah, in recruitment. I started off working for a big corporation, then set up my own businesses. And this was a real baptism of fire in show me the result. You know, you can have all the fancy sort of theoretical books about business, but at the end of the day, what can you do? Let's see what you can do. So that was my problem solving back.
Yes. Okay. And why did you get into NLP? Was it just sort of a buzzword at the time, and you thought, well, I want to, I guess, see how I can get more out of myself, out of my communication skills?
Well, I kind of heard about NLP, but it's sort of kind of like this sort of like, what is this NLP stuff? And there was a course running in London from Richard Bandler. He'd started doing trainings in England hosted by Paul McKenna. Paul McKenna was like well-known TV celebrity, ex-radio. And Paul—
The hypnotherapist, right?
Yeah, well, definitely. Paul brought Richard into the UK, would be probably about 97, my guess is, and I dropped in about 99. And people would come to these big courses. Nobody knew who Richard was.
Hi there, this is Conor and Kallum from Connekt Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
So they would come to mostly see Paul, and a lot of them would go, "Who's the old guy?" Well, he's the creator of NLP.
Right.
Here's a course that you've just signed on for. And I absolutely loved my initial foray into NLP. I thought it was fascinating. We did a 7-day accelerated course, of which I got no idea what we've learned. I mean, it's just like the old Woody Allen joke, I did a course in speed reading, read War and Peace in 30 seconds. It's about Russia. That was about it. I sort of progressed in the world of NLP and then started, I ran my own trainings from about 2002 onwards. And then from doing trainings with Richard Bandler, he introduced me to this character called Frank Farrelly, which was the start of the progression and the lighting the fuse for Provocative Change Works.
So you were sitting there with Bandler, and you heard about this other gentleman, and it took you kind of in a totally different direction. So can you tell me about that moment? Because
I was helping behind the scenes on a master prac course in London, 2003. And Richard starts a course and he goes, "Well, a lot of people have influenced me over the years, Virginia Satir, Milton Erickson, Gregory Bateson, and then there were others that are less known, including Frank Farrelly. 110 would-be master practitioners, right? Frank Farrelly. And he goes, and if you think I'm crazy, you should meet Frank. Frank, crazier than Richard. And nobody'd heard, we kind of had a peripheral awareness of Frank, but it's the worst marketing ever. I mean, Frank had done bits and pieces, but really not heard of at all. And then within about 6 months later, a good friend of mine, Andy Austin, who's a great, great therapist and author, sent me an email which just said, "He's alive." I thought, what? I went to a training down on the South Coast in England, and I was used to being at the Bandler trainings were like minimum 300 people at a time. This training with Frank had 17 people on it, split between ardent feminist social workers and NLPers.
Interesting.
Right. And I sat and I saw Frank work, and I literally was just watching, just thinking, what is it? None of this makes any sense to my NLP antennae at all. I kind of fascinated by it. And that was the start of the process.
So how did Frank, so for those of the audience who are not aware of Frank Farrelly, what was the draw card? What did he teach Bandler, for example, for Bandler to say, he influenced me?
Well, I interviewed Frank on Bandler and Bandler on Frank, and I interviewed Richard and I said, "So how did you come across Frank?" And he said, "Well, firstly, I came across his book in Berkeley." And he said, Frank was one of the few people who were really doing anything productive at that time. Frank trained originally with Carl Rogers, then went to, worked in Mendota Hospital and worked with catatonics, schizophrenics, whole range of very problematic people. And Richard was very interested in learning about Frank's patterns and looking to model what he did. So Bandler and Grinder hired Frank for a weekend and videoed his entire training. And Bandler said to Frank, "Well, we see you as like the rocket scientist of the whole personal development movement. You just got one problem. And Frank went, what's that? He said, marketing. And Richard was not incorrect in that Frank had written one book called Provocative Therapy, but outside of that, it was really unknown as an approach. So when I came across Frank, it was, I mean, almost nobody'd heard of it, but I saw him work and I just thought, initially, I just sat there thinking, what the hell is this? I don't know what to make of it. But as I started to unpack it with my NLP skills, I could see like there was a huge amount of stuff to learn from it.
Cal, you look like you're about chomping at the bit for a question.
Yeah, I'm feeling like we're kind of dancing around what that was. And I'm really curious to know the magic sauce that he had, that Bandler modeled and was so wowed by, that made them think that he was the rocket scientist, and also convinced you that this was the path. This was what I want to pick up this baton and run with it. Can you dive into what was so special about it specifically?
I can dive in. Absolutely. Number one, the approach was, everything was conversational. So it was just like talking to another human being, no obvious techniques whatsoever. So there was no, okay, when you think about it, is there a picture? Is it a color picture? Is it a black and white picture? Are you in the picture? Are you looking at it? We're not doing a submodality elicitation. It was completely conversational, number one. Number two, in NLP coaching, standard therapy, we would, coaching practice, we would start off with the question, what do you want? So I'd say, okay, Conor, what do you want? And we would set up a grid of possibilities. What happens if you get it? What happens if you don't get it? What resources do you need? How you get those resources? You know, maybe we'd set up a timeline of possibilities. We'd set up this whole grid of references. With provocative style, we start the session with the question, what's the problem? So it's different. It's totally different. And then what we do is we give all the reasons why the client should stick with and maintain the problem. I'll just say that again for your listeners, because that sounds a bit nuts. We're not giving any advice at all. We're giving all the reasons why the person should keep the problem and maintain the problem, which means the client then has to argue the case for things. I'll give you a quick example of my all-time favorite client. This was a client on Zoom, and we start the Zoom session and I say, okay, so what's the problem? And the woman responds, lightning quick, nobody likes me. And I say, well, some people are just unlikable. I mean, we've all been there. You're in the shopping mall, you see one of them come towards you and think, oh shit, now I'm going to have to talk to him. And she says, now I say it out loud, that sounds a bit crazy. And I go, trust me, some people are unlikable. What we're doing is we are getting the client to challenge their existing thinking. Now, this kind of works equally well in business, which is also my background. It works in sports, it works in coaching, it works in personal change. It also works in academia because I was paid a year by a big health trust in the UK to work with academics. So it's kind of like the Aikido of communication. You're working with the client's own resistances to produce something different. It's the total antithesis of other approaches. So we're not giving good advice. We're just moving through different positions and giving all the reasons why the client should stick with the same issue. That's the provocative bit of it. The Provocative Change Works model is like provocative therapy on steroids. It adds in a whole bunch of other dimensions as well. So I've been doing this now. This will be 20 years next year. I know you had Ray Andres with yourselves. I was hosted by her and Steve in Boulder a bunch of different times. And from that, pushed me into Japan, which I've been to 34 times. So the whole model's expanded across the globe because mostly it's about what works. It's like, what's the difference that makes the difference? All the theory, I'm going to give you all the theory in the world. But at the end of the day, show me the evidence. So the difference is it's totally conversational. It's working in the here and now. The mostly three approaches: we're working directly, we're working indirectly, and in PCW also we'll throw in just random things that don't fit, which really changes the dynamic of the session. But it's all like talking to an old friend, and it's all conversational, but with super precision.
Precision, yeah.
So I can't help but think you have to have a lot of rapport in order to use this sort of model. Is that right, or is the jolt enough in order to get someone's?
Well, rapport is, I don't know. I'm going to be polite now. Yeah, I'm okay. No, I'm going to be straight talking. I know you Australians love straight talkers. So, often when people talk about rapport, they talk about sort of like mirroring, matching, and all these different things. Rule number one of communication is get clients' attention. So from my point of view, because we're working in a frame which is like talking to an old friend, it's gently teasing out the scenarios with the clients. So we are making a connection with the client, but what we're not doing is the standard mirroring, matching, breathing at the same rate, and all the other things. A lot of the time we're challenging what the client's doing, and we're moving through a lot of different positions to get them to think different. So dynamically, it's very different as a model. It's not conventional at all. It's completely unconventional. We might interrupt the client. We might go off into abstractions. What we're doing is we're looking to change the thinking part, so all the feelings and the behaviors get scrambled. So yeah, I mean, when I first saw it in action, I just thought, what the hell is this? I can't make any sense of it. And then gradually, from talking to Frank, because we became very good friends, I started to figure out with my NLP background how to deconstruct it, how to systematize it, how to teach it.
Well, we've got some people in the chat here. Costa, who's from Australia, says that we love it straight, and Holly said that I would love to upskill with the steroid. So it's like an upskilling steroids. So is it intentionally not to match and mirror, or it's just not the focus?
If we think about it simply, if we think, here's the end behavior of what's happening with the client. It could be in business, it could be in sports, it could be in coaching. This is what's happening. One step back, this is the feelings that they're getting, which drives the behavior. In order to get the feelings, there has to be some kind of processing of what's going on. Mostly four things. In NLP, we know see externally, think, hear externally, think, picture internally, or run internal commentary. So the feeling is always going to be the second stage. How we think to ourselves creates how we feel in ourselves. That then will drive the behavior. By moving through different in PCW, we have a whole bunch of different stances. Brought some visual aids here to make it easier.
Good.
And we'll shift through some of these. So one of them might be digital choice. Okay, is it this or is it this? So we're literally giving people just two options. Then we have less conventional stances. Blame the client for the problem. Blame the client. You and people like you. I mean, this happens all the time. Another one would feign boredom during the session as you're working with the client. Another example would be, let's find here, see it through other people's eyes would be another one. Okay, what does your boss think about this? What does your girlfriend think about this? References time. There are many of these different situations. This is all conversationally. So you could be in a bar talking to your friends. You're using a lot of these things anyway. So sometimes it might be somebody might talk about something and you might go, wow, really? Surprise stop. So we're shifting through all these positions with a lot of expression to change how the person's thinking. and feeling and to create something different. So it's very elegant, but it's also very natural talking to the human being.
Pretty cool. So those cue cards, are they cue cards that a coach or someone who is provocative change work trained use as guides, so as prompts during their sessions?
We wouldn't use them during a session, but if I'm running trainings with people, what I would do is I would have a training, say, with 3 people. So one would be a client, one would be a coach, and the other one might hold up cards. So the person holding up the cards will be behind the client. As they hold up the card, the coach has got to move to that position. So suddenly you hold up the time card, they've got to go to do everything to do with time. They hold up another card, they've got to do everything. So they're having to work only in the here and now, rather than having a pre-organized script as to what they're going to do. So it means you have to work in the moment. And then
what a great exercise.
It's like normal conversation. It's not like, okay, make a big, create a circle in front of you, fill it with color, step into it. It's as normal as you can get in just working with a human being.
So Nick, I can imagine just by the name provocative, when people are being provoked, it can often lead to them getting upset or abreacting or responding in an unresourceful way. And my question is, traditionally, in our framework that we've learned, the model that we've been taught under with timeline therapy, NLP, and hypnosis, generally the idea is to keep the client, even if they do fall into an unresourceful state, we like to keep them in a state that's empowering. I'm assuming that just by the nature of provoking your client through this language and these language patterns, that from time to time they would fall into these unresourceful states, or they would get mad, or they would abreact and respond back with you in a defensive way. And I could be wrong here.
Well,
but my question is,
the situation.
What happens
a lot of the time people talk
are you
about,
prepared for
yes,
it? Is it something that you expect regularly to happen?
Et cetera, et cetera.
How is that navigated?
In my experience, more problems are created by somebody not working in a human-to-human contact with a client than with Frank. He talks about provoking as from the Latin provocare, which is to call out and elicit a new response. Now, the key thing here is that this is working in a friendly manner. This isn't James Bond torturing some North Korean suspect, or some interrogation process. But biggest problem in my experience with a lot of conventional approaches is, number one, they're too predictable in that respect. They're too linear. The client is basically just feeding back. Nothing really is changing. There's not a lot of emphasis with expression. And what tends to happen is that nothing new is being provoked. So it's all about being able to read the person, and the skill is to be able to interact like talking to an old friend in a bar, where you're talking to them, and you just go, what, really? Rather than sort of like, okay, Conor, how are you today? I am very well, thank you, Nick. How are you? Not so bad.
Yeah.
We're
a bit on the clinical level.
All the artificial elements and the barriers, and we're getting to just literally talking about how things are. In that sense, it's exquisite rapport on steroids. It's so radically different. I train in NLP and train people in NLP, and this was like finding broadband compared to dial-up. It was a massive expansion on what I'd already done.
If we have time, would you be open to doing a little demo with myself? I think Cal's internet's probably shut down for a second. He should be back any moment. And then, if people can see it in action.
Sure. We could definitely do that. I mean, if we just, is he about to reappear?
Well, if you rub the lamp 3 times, he may. There we go. So tell me about because you have a strong business background. A lot of what we've been talking about has sort of been under the therapy umbrella, yet your background is is a strong business background. Hey, Cal.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So I just asked Nick if he would be open to doing a bit of a demo with us later on in the podcast. And then I shifted the conversation from we've been talking primarily around sort of using Provocative Change Works under the therapy umbrella, and I was sort of asking about how would you use this under the business umbrella? Could you use it in all areas of business, sales, marketing, obviously recruitment background? I would assume sales. Could you unpack a little bit about how you teach people how to use this in the sales world?
I never categorize this into therapy, coaching, or business, because for me, it's all problem solving. The whole situation is, okay, what's the difference that's going to make the difference? Now, let's think about this in two ways. If we're talking about sales, for example, we're looking at engagement. We're looking at getting people engaged in something so that it creates sensory awareness, creates purchasing, and people think, man, I've just got to have that. So if you're a guitarist, for example, you might have one of these sort of TC tuners that you put on the headstock of your guitar. It's super cool. It's super efficient. People see it and they go, oh, wow, I can picture myself actually doing. So in sales, we're talking about engagement. If we're talking about therapy and coaching, a lot of the time we're talking about disengagement. So the principles are the same, but they're reversed in that respect. So the question is, in PCW, we're looking at, well, what do we want more of? What do we want less of? What makes it better? What makes it worse? And how do we test it in that respect? So when I worked in sales and business, this was all about meeting expectations. A company would ring up and say, okay, we need 30 people tomorrow morning to do this, this, and this. And I have to then be able to meet that requirement, which means I'm working with human beings, which are notoriously unpredictable at the best of times. So it's mixing and matching expectations. So it's all problem solving. I never differentiate between any of these things. So the question is, if it's a company that wants to do better, the question is, okay, what's the difference that's going to make the difference? If it's a person who wants to do better, what's going to change in the sequence that's going to make it easier and better for them? All talking about micro adjustments at any point in time that are going to make the change. Some of the biggest successes I've had is with international athletes. I've had people that have got their lifetime best time simply from working through some sessions. I can give you examples in martial arts. I can give you examples in athletics. I can give you names of people in athletics and martial arts. And it's all about how you change the mindset that changes the sequence that creates the different behavior. One of my favorite ones was runner from international runner rang me up and said, I really have an issue. I need to get my lifetime best in order to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. Can you help?
Okay.
Well, firstly, I'm not going to be running alongside with you doing the 200 meters, but apart from that, then let's just see. So she comes to see me and she's got to get a second of her best time to be able to qualify. And she's never been able to do it. So I'd say, okay, so what's happening basically when you're about to do the race? Because it's all about how she's creating the state that she's in to create the behavior. And I said, she says, just before I'm about to start the race, I always think to myself something not helpful. I go, like what? She goes, I think to myself, this is going to hurt. Not the most useful phrase, I might add. So I use one of the processes which we might do a demo of to change and alter the phrase. And she comes back the following week and she says, it's been really good. I feel much more at ease. And I say, okay, what else would be useful? She said, I could do with just being quicker and starting. So again, we go back to how she's processing and thinking about and creating the right kinesthetic for what happens. A week later, I get an email saying, I got my lifetime best time. I'm now qualified for the Commonwealth Games. So it's about show me the evidence. I got the same with martial arts, boxers. I've got a whole catalog of people I can easily say, here are some examples of people going through the same process.
And how long is a session? Is it a couple sessions? Is it one session? Is it half an hour? Is it an hour and a half?
Average for me is 3 sessions with clients, 2 to 3 sessions. You always need more than one because you've got to get, every session is recorded and every recording is done with a view of them listening back to the session. So I'm effectively timelining what's going to be happening. So during the session, I'm looking to see what's different. And then if I'm doing any kind of trance work, I will throw in, as you're listening back to this, you've already noticed, and I'll give them what they've noticed in terms of information. So we're creating a feedback loop for the client. One of the best ones on nickkemptherapy.com, you'll see on the front page, me working with a channel swimmer, guy wanted to swim the English Channel for charity. I said, firstly, I'm not going to be swimming with you. Let me make that clear. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's 18 hours in the water, no wetsuit. And I worked with him. I did 5 sessions with him, and he completed that in 17 hours, 55 minutes. And he was an amateur swimmer. He was not a professional swimmer. And the story is there, the whole documentary about his practice sessions, what went on. And we basically sorted out all the internal dialogue. So he was just in the here and now doing the exercise. So it's all about the result.
100%. 100%. Swimming the English Channel is a feat in and of itself, let alone being an amateur and doing it in less than 18 hours. Absolutely remarkable. Inside of businesses.
The English Channel, I just want to make that clear. It's not a prerequisite for saying me, firstly, you're going to channel in order to qualify. So yeah, carry on.
And he did it for charity.
He was doing it for his son's charity. His son was disabled and he wanted to earn money for a minibus. And he'd agreed to do it, but halfway through working up the training, one day he was sat out at sea about a mile away from the shore, looking at the shore thinking, shit, if my arms go now, I've had it. Oh my God. And started to get into a panic loop. So when I saw it, he was freaking out because he only had 7 weeks before he was going to be doing this swim. So I had 7 weeks to get him up to speed so that he get in the water at Dover. No wetsuit allowed, by the way. In you go, keep going until you get to France. Somewhat of a test to see if something actually worked. And the main thing was to sort out all the internal dialogue so that he was just absolutely in the here and now. And I told him, with your support ship, don't give him any information, don't let him give you any information about time or distance. So you're only in the here and now. Because as soon as you reference those things, you're thinking, oh, right, I've got this. You're setting up all sorts of issues and problems. So that was one very good example of sports. I've got lots of examples,
So I'm guessing you typically work with individuals, not teams. Like if you're working with a company and they've got problems within their team, then you would work with everyone on an individual basis, or is there techniques that you can do?
Also work with groups. I did a big group training for McAfee Software. Recently, I did a training for an Eastern European split off of the McKinsey group, who were like super high-end consultants. I mean, McKinsey's been going for a century. It's one of the top 3 consultancies on the planet. And as I got the invite, I thought, Jesus Christ, I mean, these people are psychometrically up with it. Brains like planets. And they, I don't know how they heard about me, because they love the fact that the model takes you out of conventional thinking into blue sky thinking and creative thinking. And I did a ton of work for them, and that was all groups. So at the end of the day, all we're ever doing is figuring out what do we want more of, what do we want less of, what makes it better in terms of a process. But we're using lots of expression. We're using a lot of precision and detail, and it's much, much more accelerated than anything else I've come across.
In regards to marketing, provocative marketing is if there's such a thing. What came to my mind was, I think it was like in the 90s where there were these big billboards that says, sex, now I have your attention, blah, 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 blah. Is that an example of provocative marketing, or is that just would you class it as gimmick?
Well, marketing's all about get attention, drive attention, create attention. So at the end of the day, if something's not different, it's the same. So at the end of the day, something has to sensorily connect you in a way which generates interest. Now, in marketing, the difference is, okay, you can get people's attention, but what impression are you creating? In England, there's a brand, an insurance brand with, in my view, like a terrible name. I mean, it's called Confused. So every time I hear this, I'm just thinking, what? They go, confused. Make smart decisions with confused. I'm thinking, it doesn't match up. If you think about top three brands currently would be Apple, Google, Coca-Cola. They all have strong visual images. They all have clear messages. They all have taglines, but that strong visual geometrical images, usually primary colors, so you recognize straight away what it is. So we're looking at a sensory connection, which means the person goes, oh, okay, I know what that is. So there has to be a clarity of intention that follows through into everything that they're doing. So with marketing, this is about connection with people. Again, it's all about how much connection or how much disconnection do we want. In sales and business, we want more connection with people. Ultimately, the ideal is they're all wearing your sort of like bespoke branded T-shirts, just going, Conor, Healy, he's a genius, Kallum, Hock, also a genius. And they're walking adverts for you. That's the ultimate in terms of connection and a kudos. But it's all about making sure that is the intention couriered through sensory representation systems so that you recreate something which is cool and also relevant in the here and now.
Multiple layers underneath there. How do you teach?
What gets your attention? I mean, when I say if I'm doing sales groups, one of the things I'll say is, okay, what have you bought that you really couldn't afford, but you just had to have? What happened in the process?
Great question.
For me, if I'm in a guitar store in Tokyo and I see a particular thing, I go, I just got to have it.
I'm going to write that down. And Cal, are you there? I don't think I can hear your mic. Nick, can you hear Cal?
No, I had it off.
He's sort of fading out like some ghostly entity was sort of like, could be ascending to some different dimension. But I think he's still a lot conscious.
Heard that before. I was going to say, so while Connor's writing that down, I wondered if we could move the conversation in a direction where we could demonstrate some of these skills. And I wondered if you had an idea on how we could do that via the podcast and what would be the best format for that.
Okay, there's two things that come to mind. One is just demonstrating the provocative stance and how that works conversationally. And the other would be if we have an individual, with either of yourselves, who's got something where there's too much anxiety where you would like to be more at ease with, because that's a different process that I can show. But let's start off with, who am I going to be working with?
Cal has a trip to
volunteered him.
Travels.
Hey, Scott.
Okay, well, look, Cal, pick something. Is there something where you would like to feel more at ease with, but at the moment, whatever's happening, there's like an internal dialogue which is just a bit problematic, and for whatever reason, it's getting in the way in that respect. It could be any area of life. Something where you think to yourself something that's not particularly helpful.
I feel a little bit that way in the afternoons with my kids after, we've had a busy day in the office, and then I'm coming into the house and it's like that witching hour with the kids, and it's going from one kind of, tense arena into a hyper intense space where the kids are kicking off in the afternoons. And I definitely feel at times with that I have an internal dialogue where I'm just like, oh my God, this is full on.
Okay, right, great. Okay, right. Excellent. Right. I'll show you this real super quick. Right. Close your eyes for a second. Yep. Right. When you think to yourself, oh my God, this is full on, what kind of voice is that in? Is it in a nice, calm, relaxed voice, or is it in a more unhelpful, anxiety generating voice?
Very much a more unhelpful, anxiety generated voice.
Going to be number 2, definitely, because in order to get a feeling, you have to have the corresponding voice. Now, would it be useful to be able to change this, oh my God, it's full on voice, to something that would be more helpful?
Yes, please.
The answer is yes, by the way, if you want to save a little bit of
I
time
said yes,
on
please.
the
I must have
podcast.
missed it. I said yes, please. Is my microphone not working? How come I've lost mic here? Have you guys lost me?
No, we can hear you
You're
now.
still there.
Okay.
Still there. So the
Yeah,
question
I said
is,
yes,
would
please.
it be useful?
I said yes, please.
Think about,
yes,
okay,
please.
so close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, right. Firstly, I want you to think about it like it's a question. My God, this is full on. Think it like that. Take a deep breath in. Okay. Second time, I want you to think about it like you're just reading it out of a magazine. So it's like, oh my God, this is full on. So it's just like a commentary. Take a deep breath in. And third time, I want you to slow down the phrase. I'm going to say it first, then I want you to think it in this slowed down way. And it goes like this. Oh my God, this is full on. Now run it super slow. So it's going really super slow without cheating. Let me know when you get to the end. Keep your eyes closed. See the phrase like it's on a big billboard in front of you. And I want you to look at the different words and the different letters in the words. And as you look at them now, let all the letters start to float apart from each other. So it's like there's no gravity. It's like there's no gravity. And as they float apart from each other, take a deep breath in. That's good. And then finally fade out every single letter that was in every single word. So it gets a little bit fainter, little bit fainter, little bit fainter still. And then at some point, you'll know they're not there because when you look, you'll notice that they're not there. And then take another deep breath in. Okay, open your eyes. What's the last movie you saw that you liked? What's the last movie you saw that you liked?
It's been a while since I watched a movie. Man,
Or TV series, anything like that?
Yeah, okay. I liked, there was one that we watched recently called Guinness, the Guinness story. I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, that's good. Right, funny, close your eyes.
Yeah.
Right, close your eyes. I want you to try and get back the original phrase before we did some tweaking to it. I'm interested to know, can you get all of it back, some of it back, or none of it back?
Not in the way that I was saying it to myself. It starts to do many of the things
different?
Well, it's some of it's floating, some of it's fading out, some of it's slow and staccato, some of it's
I want you to really give it the best effort to try and get back the original problematic sound. Just knock yourself out, really go for it.
Okay.
This is great.
Put some effort into it, you know. I mean, I'm up here, it's like 5 to 11 at night. I'm not here just for the love of it. Put some effort into it. I want you to try and get back the original.
I appreciate you staying up late for this.
That's all right. I'm in my own time zone.
Every time I go to run the original strategy, it gets scrambled with one of the other ones somehow.
Yeah. Okay. And open your eyes. Back in 2006, I was asked to go on BBC Radio Leeds to work with people with phobias. And about 18 weeks in, I did this for 26 weeks. No, about 8 weeks in, I suddenly thought to myself, I don't think it's what people are thinking. I think it's how they're thinking it. I'm going to start changing the internal dialogue. I'm going to change the speed of it, but I'm not going to change the content. And I started doing work and I got some great results. And I spoke to Steve Andreas and I said, I've had something that's working really well. And Steve, in his normal dry sense, said, okay, Nick, talk it through as if I'm a client. And I talked it through and he went, how many people have you done this with? I said, probably about 300. They said, what's your success rate? I go, 100%. I'm up to about 3,500. I've never had anybody who can get back the anxiety. And Steve described this as one of the two best techniques of all the techniques you'd ever come across, period. I thought,
wow,
go me.
That's amazing.
If you think about it, how we feel in ourselves is created to how we think to ourselves. So the direct link between how it's sequenced to how it's felt. With anxiety, we're just changing the threshold of the speed of it. And then when it gets to below a certain speed, it goes. But the sneaky bit here is it's like betting on black and red on the roulette wheel. I'm also changing the visual element as well. So if I change both, you can't get back into the original pattern. Not possible.
Yeah, I'm still trying now, and it's like it's unacceptable.
Yeah. I said to one client, I bet you I can change that inside 5 minutes. I said, I'll give you 100 to 1, but I would advise you not to take the bet because this is not my first rodeo. I've done this before. That's the voice tempo exercise. That's in Steve's original book, Transforming Negative Self-Talk. There's about 10 pages in there on that. It's one of many approaches I use within the PCW model. Simple, effective, and super quick.
So for those who are listening and they've loved what they've just seen, what is the model? Is it a 7-day training? Are there levels? Is it online, Zoom?
Well, before COVID, I'm jetting around the planet doing trainings, and normally I do it like a 10-day training. And then COVID-19 came. I'm watching the TV and I'm going, shit, all my work is gone. 85% of my income has just disappeared. And I started to do stuff online. So at the moment, I'm running a 1-year training, which is detailed at provocativechangeworks.com, which is monthly groups across the planet. I've got about 16 different countries on that. And I do bespoke trainings as well, specific ones. In February, I'm doing a training 25 years since I first started to do NLP called 25 Years on the Firing Line. Subtitle, the good, the bad, and the batshit crazy in personal change. Because some of the stories you could not make up. I mean, honestly, it is just so out there. So everything I've learned, both in sales, marketing, working with groups, working with people, my history in NLP, some talk about where the bodies are buried. It's really fascinating. So that I'm doing in February, but I do one-on-one stuff. I've got the 1-year monthly course. On provocativechangeworks.com, you'll find most of the stuff that I'm actually doing. You'll also find me on YouTube. I mean, everywhere, basically. And I also...
In Japan? You just got back from Japan, so
I
do famous in Japan?
Trainings in Japan for 13 years. I've done 34 trainings in Japan for medics over there and presented at medical conferences as well. And the Japanese love detail. They like to see what worked. So I was presenting at this conference of about 200 people in Japan, in Hiroshima, and I was demonstrating this voice tempo exercise, and they just loved it because it's super, it's effective, and it works. At the end of the day, you can have all the theory in the world. There's enough self-help book to fill, a mountain. Show me something that works consistently and show me the evaluation of it. The proof of it is in the response you get back from the people. So that's 100%. One tiny little bit of a whole arsenal of different approaches that are radically different to everything else. But for those NLPers watching, let's remember, all we're ever talking about is sensory connections. What do we want more of? What do we want less of? How much engagement? How much disengagement? To make sense of the world around us, we have to work through the sensory systems. So as soon as you change one bit in the sequence, you change the whole sequence. detail is in the precision. As I say to my students, there's a big difference between the Michelin star restaurant and the Pizza Hut guy. I love pizza.
Yes.
There's a whole difference in how you go about it. So we're doing quite nicely getting the word out, and we really appreciate talking to you guys because I think it's this that particularly it's really important people have skills and tools to help them.
Especially the
Absolutely,
conversational
to be-
stuff. I really admire the conversational aspect because, what I've found over the years is people get fixated on these, these rigid kind of techniques that you have to do in a setting that can only be done in kind of a therapeutic space. But the conversational stuff's always appealed to me because you can do it on the phone, on the fly. You can do it on the bus. You could do it on the, down the beach. You could do it anywhere. And I find there's an elegance to it and a magic to it that is quite powerful because of it doesn't require that formal environment to be in. So I love that conversational style. Yeah.
Best approach for me is if you want to test a model, give somebody a 10-year-old hyperactive kid that's sulky. I had one of those presented to me, and this was a girl who refused to go to school, went to the school counselor, sat for an hour with her mum, nothing, no reply whatsoever. So I get her, comes to see me in my clinic, and she's just sitting there like this. She really doesn't want to be there. And I'm saying, so your name's Mary, minimal response. I see that you're currently off school. Minimal response. Said, I used to go to school like a long time ago, and people used to say to me, school days are the best days of your life. But I used to think, school sucked. Big emotional response, and then clammed down into being sulky again. But now I've got an inroad with her. I know I'm too I'm not going to be able to. No point in me saying, okay, Mary, right, when you think about going to school, is it a color picture or it is a black and white picture, when you think about the future, because it's not going to work. So the key thing here is to do all those skills, but to do all the submodality elicitations and challenges, you're doing it all conversationally. That's a skill. And that's when I saw Frank work. I literally sat there and my head exploded. I just thought, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but this has set in motion something dramatically different.
Yeah.
With that client, with that girl, how did that evolve? So if someone is clearly not into talking to you, you got an emotional response, and then what did that open up the door for conversation to?
Yeah, mostly I'm not seeing clients sort of. I'm not out sort of like dragging clients in, compulsory client. But what I'm looking at doing is we're all testing to see how important is it for the person. At the end of the day, people are going to be motivated in one way or another. So at the end of the day, we're looking to see, okay, how important is it? I had somebody once who said, well, I'm just a procrastinator. I can just never get anything done. I do this my whole life. I said, okay, I've got in my wallet here, like £50 note, highest denomination in UK. If you can take it out of my hand by the time I count 3, it's yours. 1, he's got it. I went, oh, okay. So all you need is a little bit of incentive. So as I say to my clients, it depends on what the perceived outcome's going to be. If you say to somebody, okay, if you do this new behavior, I will give you 1 million sterling guaranteed on the 1st of every single month, it might make a difference. If you say, okay, if you don't do this, I'm going to come around and I'm going to start lopping off limbs. That might be a little bit more visceral, probably a bit much this time. The point of the thing is, unless there's a perceived consequence, then it's not going to get to the human being, not going to produce anything different. So within PCW, we use a lot of stories. We use a lot of working indirectly. Frank did this a lot. And it's about connecting with the human being. So we're doing the work. We're not working in a theoretical, abstract way.
And in regards to creating change, as you said before, you can either get $1 million or I can come around and cut parts of your body off. Do you lean towards or away from like a pain pleasure approach? Do you sort of play a bit of tennis before you land on one?
It absolutely depends. Everybody's different. Everybody's wired differently. So with the main thing for somebody, if somebody comes with a problem, what do we know for certain? We know they're stuck. Whatever they've thought, they're stuck. Their thinking and what they've heard from other people, it has not changed what's going on. So the question is, okay, what needs to change in the sequence to be able to create some difference? High probability how they're thinking to themselves is creating how they're feeling in themselves. Every single anxiety state I've ever had, every anger state I've ever had, every jealous state I've ever had has been internal dialogue problematic. And changing that mostly will change what's going on. But I had a friend of mine, multimillionaire, ring me up and he goes, Nick, you do all that brain stuff, don't you? And I'm going, well, I'm not sure if I would call it that. He said, I've got a friend. He's going to be boxing next weekend. He's an underdog. He's brilliant in sparring, but when he's in a live situation, he's never that great. And he's having this fight and we don't expect him to win, but it'd be good if we gave him some help. Will you help him? This young lad from London. I went, well, okay, I'll talk to him. So I'm talking to this guy. He's never done any kind of coaching, anything before. And I said, okay, so when you're sparring, what's going on? And when you're in a live situation, what's going on? For those NLP is classic. Let's see what the difference is between the two. And of course, when he's in a live situation and he's with the crowd, he's thinking to himself in a different way. So I change his internal dialogue and I send him on his way and I forget about it. Week later, I forget he's doing the fight. I get a call really late at night when my friend Andy rings up and he goes, Nick, are you awake? I go, yeah. What's going on? Andy, it is a bit late. He goes, you will never believe what's happened to Mikey. I went, oh yeah, the boxer. He goes, he's knocked the other bloke out. He said, I got to the 12th round and his coach said, well, look, you're behind on points now. So if you're going to win, you've got to knock him out. He said, oh, all right then. Boom. And his coach came up to Leeds with him. And he said, what did you do? Because I've never seen him so relaxed in the ring before. He was utterly different. He was like he was when he was doing sparring work. Well, all we did is we just made some adjustments, all about micro adjustments. Nothing more than that. You have to know which bit to change, and then it'll change the whole sequence. All sports people I've worked with are good examples. One of my students, Rafael, he worked with Kiko Martinez, world champion boxer. Doesn't get better than that. He ran him through a whole bunch of PCW sessions. I got cage fighter, Michelle the Ghost Thorpe. This guy's like something out of Kill Bill. I mean, honestly, you look and you think, Jesus Christ, if I wanted a bodyguard, I'd choose Mitchell Thorpe. I mean, he's just a stone cold killer. All of them is about getting the internal sensory system attuned so that they're in the here and now in a way that is suitable for what they're actually doing. So we're talking about just changing sensory processes, but we're doing it all conversationally. That's a key thing.
There's a request from someone watching, Nick, and it's from Holly, and she's asked for the name of your book. Do you have a book out that someone can?
Well, yeah, there's half a book, which Steve Andres was editing. There's a lot of information on provocativechangeworks.com. You'll find a lot of information there. There's also an archive that we've set up of Frank Farrelly's work and my work, which is like insane amount of footage, which you'll find. If you don't find it on provocativechangeworks.com, email me at info at Nick Kemp, NICKKEMP.com, and I'll gladly point you in the right direction. But this is all about show me the evidence. I started doing the 1-year course where I see people monthly because it occurred to me that it's all about integration and practice. If you want to be good at anything, you have to put the time. In my alternate life, which we haven't got time really to talk about now, I work as a musician. So I have another identity called Nick Cody, C-O-D-Y. You're actually in the recording studio now where I work. I'll show you some sort of like footage of different bits of equipment, guitars and gear and stuff. And for the last 10 years, I've been doing live music and writing music and releasing albums under a completely different persona. And all the provocative skills were useful in being able to generate those skills to be able to work live in front of people. So again, it's all about the results,
All about results. That's a t-shirt.
It's all about
Coaching, it's all about the results.
Yeah.
Show me the evidence. I like that one too.
Show me well, that's Frank used to say, show me the evidence, because he would say he was brought up with in classic therapy, and he go, it's all very nice, but if you're working with real people at the sharp end, and if you're working in business, you can have all the theory in the world. Let's see what you can do. That's the proof of it, and that has always been my motto and I can give you endless examples of how this works.
Well, I would love, I was going to say, I would love to know more. We would love to know more. But it's 11 o'clock where you are right now, Nick. And I think we would love, what are your thoughts, Cal?
Yeah,
we should book you in again because we would love to know
Please.
more about the details of, I feel we've only scratched the surface today.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more to talk about. And I found there is
And I have
a lot more
Two
to
things.
talk about.
I would love to, you could, we would love to listen for an hour to hear about the stories you've had with people. But there was a gentleman by the name of Ronnie Martar, who you may or may not know. He's a trainer in Lebanon.
Ronnie is a total. Ronnie, I always joke. I say, I swear that there's got to be two of you. There is no way one person can do this amount of work. Ronnie Major he's also one of only two PCW trainers, because the bar to be a PCW trainer, it's like joining the SAS. They have to be really, really good. And he is, he's a total sweetheart. And he also looks after the archive for the provocative work.
I've known him for about 10 years now. And he put me in contact with you and Sal reached out. But I also want to say something else. And that is, it's Kallum's birthday today. Everyone in the world who's watching, it's Kallum's birthday. So if you are friends with Kallum on Facebook, it doesn't matter when you're listening to this. It could be 1 year from now on YouTube. Find Kallum Hock and just wish him a happy birthday. Once a cow to get birthday wishes every day of the year, not just today. So everyone, reach out to Cal right now and wish him a happy birthday.
That's the sweetest part.
Send him money. I'm sure he would be more financial agents.
The $1 million at the start of every month sounded really appealing. I'd love to join that training.
I should have one of like donate to Kallum now. It should be like a ticker tape.
Yeah,
Especially to go. Guy now is completely able to retire.
I love that business model.
Marcus, say birthday. Please donate.
Yeah. Look, Brad, really, it's been great talking to you. It's been great talking to you guys. I mean, it's like, you're entertaining and you're fun and you're clearly people who are interested in things at work. I get all kinds of invites to do. So, it's a real pleasure.
Nick, we often say that we were, inside of a bubble with golden handcuffs on, and we weren't really able to talk to the competition. And now that bubble has popped and the golden handcuffs have come off. So now we're able to talk to everybody. And we've really enjoyed the freedom of being able to do that because we've met so many wonderful and beautiful people along the way. And you're added to that list, Nick. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. I mean, we're changing all the time. I mean, I disagree with some of my previous ideas. I'm constantly in a process of evaluation.
I'm glad you said that, right? Because sometimes people sort of, brush that under the carpet. I'm glad you say that, because everyone evolves, everyone grows, there's new learnings, new understandings.
Yeah. I'd rather be wrong and have something work brilliantly than just be consistent that I'm completely correct. All areas of life develop, whether it's music, science, anything at all, through collaboration, interaction, and working together cooperatively. Steve Andreas knew about this. He championed PCW. And quite often, I mean, sometimes we would have like real sort of like discussions about things. And I would say, we're just interested in what works. I don't mind being wrong. I'm happy to be shown the limitations of something. Let's see, what can you do with people? What can you do for people? How is this useful? That's what's important. The rest of it doesn't mean shit.
Show me the evidence.
The rest of it doesn't mean shit. Let's end it on that one, because that is the truth. Facts right there. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure. We can't wait to have you back. And I'm sure that many of our followers will find their way into your trainings sometime soon.
Right. Well, what I'll do is I'll send you over certainly a couple of things that you can just share with people that are sort of like not in public domain, that you can say, here's some examples of stuff. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I'm not one of these people that says that to everybody. But sometimes you go, yeah, we got through it, but it was hard work. This has not been hard work. I've been really happy talking to you. So happy birthday to you, Kallum, 30 at last. Who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
Great talking to you, Conor. And look forward to catching up to you down the road.
Thanks,
Sounds
Nick.
good.
Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Kallum and Conor from Connekt Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world, to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next time.